with it now.
Oh,
Okay, I think we're starting now. Are you here, Ajahn, now?
Sawadika, can you hear me?
Sawadika, yes, we can hear you, Ajahn.
Yes, I can hear you.
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์
So,
Sure.
would you, yes, let's start. Would you like to start with anything, Nina, or Carmen, would you like to start with?
Yes.
Go ahead, Nina.
Last time she brought up the latent tendencies, anusayas, and so she liked to know more about them. They are unwholesome qualities, but they don't arise. They are latent or dormant with the chitta. They are accumulated, but they can condition akusala anytime, because each akusala moment is accumulated from moment to moment, from chitta to chitta. Each chitta falls away immediately, but it is succeeded by a next chitta, and in that way, all qualities can continue or can be carried on from moment to moment. The latent tendencies are conditions for akusala. And I like the example that Ajahn mentions from time to time, that Sariputta met Asaji, and only a few words of hearing the Dhamma about whatever is conditioned has to arise and fall away, but conditions again. And Sariputta attained enlightenment, but he didn't know beforehand. It was unexpected because it was accumulated in the chitta. So I like to keep in mind the importance of the anusayas, or latent tendencies, like clinging to sense objects. There is clinging to a pleasant object time and again. And that is conditioned because it has been accumulated. And there is conceit. We find ourselves important, or a wrong view of self. But wrong view of self is eradicated by the first stage of enlightenment. So that cannot arise again. And I find it helpful not to forget that there are the latent tendencies time and again.
To understand the truth is right now how much ignorance about what is there now appearing. That's why just develop the understanding of the truth at moment of understanding, and understand whatever is conditioned by anusaya or asya or whatever right then. Because actually the truth is there, but it's so deeply to have the understanding of the conditions, which condition moment to moment, not stop at all, non-stop. That's why there is the moment of understanding how much ignorance is right now. So the way to eradicate wrong understanding, taking whatever is there as something, even right, how can it be less and less without understanding? That's why when there is the understanding that nothing can be done, only the moment of understanding can develop by itself, by the way it is, little by little. No wish or want to have such understanding or level of experience the object with understanding, because it's the matter of reality, Chitta and Cetasika, not anyone else. And this is the only way to see attachment that is there all the time when there's no understanding about the path, that it has to be so very subtle. It works its way. That's why Sariputta didn't realize at all beforehand that he would become enlightened after hearing just few words from Assaji. So it can be this moment when there is the understanding enough of what is there as it is. Now we hear about it, learn to understand the truth, that it's there unknown for years and years ago. And this is the moment of developing right understanding of the truth that is there by conditions, little by little. And this again and again and again will gradually letting go the wrong understanding and ignorance, not thinking about it, not pay attention to it, but to other things instantly with ignorance and attachment, because it's more accumulated. By the way it is, I begin to understand what is meant by parami and the parami at any moment when there's no understanding of the truth of that. It's not to let go ignorance with attachment and wrong understanding, taking it for something in life all the time in life when there's no understanding. That's why it is a very great and deep and subtle khanti to understand any moment when it's drawn to other things, other subject, other matter. It has to be known. That's not the way, no matter we try to understand this or that. It's not oneself or anyone who can do, but it's a moment of beginning to understand the truth with confidence of the truth, little by little, as parami. Otherwise, without parami, how can there be letting go the idea of self? Now, what is only that which is conditioned to arise just to be that, only that. So it's great patience to understand the truth, no matter the truth of anger, attachment, greedy, or whatever is there. When it appears, it means that it's conditioned to arise, to be known. But when there is no hearing, thinking, considering about the truth, it cannot be known. It has to be as usual, day by day, taking whatever now appears as it is. That's why the development of understanding is so very gradual, unknowingly, like Sariputta. He didn't know what life. He would hear just the word of truth at level of understanding to the level of experiencing directly, enlighten the truth. So it can be any moment when there is the understanding of that is there. Little bit or begin to be familiar with the characteristic of Nama and Rupa, no matter what is there as that which experiences or that does not experience. No word, but begin to realize the characteristic of the truth of each different one. Moment of touching, see, hardness there, unknown, or beginning to know that it's that which can be known as no thing and no one at all. Literally, by conditions, great patience to be parami, to let go ignorance, attachment, and the idea of self. So it's now any moment. When we talk about it, it's moment that it's the beginning of understanding, the precious moment of understand the truth of that now appearing. Very natural, very subtle, very patience, be truthful, with confidence of the truth. Without these parami, it's impossible to have movement of understanding arising, no conditions for it to arise. So now be patient to understand what is there, because the truth is that it's there. As it is, not anything or anyone. As it is, different moment of that which is seen, never be the same, no more. When the other object appears, for example, when sound appears, it's not true. The truth is that the truth that it can be gradually understanding the different characteristic of sound and visible object and hearing and seeing and thinking and liking and remembering, whatever now, anytime. Right? Naturally, more understanding, more letting go. So very gradually, better than none. So very precious in even a moment to understand the truth. Otherwise, that cannot be conditioned to understand the truth like now, so clear. Because clear, it means understanding. Otherwise, it cannot appear clear as it is.
And Carmen, the topic of anusias, the latent tendencies, this is also related to your topic, because in your question that you were planning to bring up, you were asking about how Lobha, Dosa, Moha had their roots in the past. So without these tendencies, for example, the tendency of attachment, without that a tendency which is carried from one chitta to the next, there could be no arising of Lobha now. But while that tendency has not been eradicated, it will condition the arising of attachment again and again, and the same for dosa, but the same for all kinds of akusala tendencies. So it is actually part of the answer. It is because of that tendency that the arising of akusala occurs now and throughout life, and that arising of akusala can condition the stronger akusala even more. And this will continue life to life until those latent tendencies, the anusias, have been eradicated.
Thank you. And how is the relation then with the vipaka?
So we have to distinguish between kusala and akusala, which accumulates and is of different degrees. Anusia is the lowest degree that doesn't even arise. It's just latent with the chitta. And then there is the arising of kusala and akusala, the medium degree, but not strong enough to condition akusala karma, which can bring results. And then there is the strong akusala that is strong enough to condition unwholesome deeds such as stealing or killing that can bring results in future. And the results of the akusala is the vipaka. So seeing or hearing now is not akusala, its result is the vipaka. So this is why I think either yesterday or the day before we were talking about the 3 rounds. So there is the round of kilesa, of defilements, the round of karma conditioned by those defilements, and the round of vipaka, the result of the karma. And the vipaka in turn is the condition for the arising of kilesa again on account of what is seen and heard, there is more clinging, more aversion, and so on. And this is life in samsara, the 3 rounds of kilesa, kama, and vipaka. So at moments of vipaka, seeing or hearing, no akusala is arising, but still those anusya are there, unknown, because they're carried by each chitta, just lying under the surface, ready to condition akusala tendencies when time is right.
Thank you.
I think you mentioned you'd like to ask Ajahn a little more about some points in your question. Would you like to bring up any of the rest of it or not?
I think this is the whole rest. So I have
This
to
is making
dive.
it clear. Yes.
Yeah, actually not totally, but I have to re-listen, and I think also
Right.
listen to the other days.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
but it is
So-
totally about my question. Yeah,
Yeah.
the whole
So
thing.
the main point is to distinguish between the kusala and akusala, which are cause and condition, more kusala, akusala, more karma and future, and the vipaka, which is result, not cause at all. So people think that the vipaka, the result of karma, is the problem in life, but actually the problem in life is the cause, the attachment, the aversion, the ignorance, which conditions more karma, which will bring more unwholesome results in future. That's the start anyway.
Yeah, good start. Thank you. Thank you.
And you mentioned one word of interest, chaitana. So chaitana,
Oh, yeah.
So chaitana actually means karma. Karma means chaitana. And as I think you know, chaitana is a chaitasika that arises with every chitta in life. So no matter whether it is a vipaka chitta, like seeing now or hearing now, chaitana arises together with that chitta. At moments of kusala or akusala, chaitana arises with the kusala or akusala. But when it arises with vipaka chittas, like seeing or hearing, it just has the function of coordinating the other chaitasikas it arises with and the chitta. It cannot will good or bad at those moments because it's result chitta. Only when it arises with kusala or akusala chittas can it will good or bad. And only when that kusala or akusala is strong enough is it of a strength that chaitana, that karma, can bring results in future.
Yeah. So the how do you say that, the deepest cause of the intention, the chaitana, is the late tendencies, because they. Sorry, please continue.
Yes, I would say the deepest cause of the akusala, which the chaitana arises with, for example, at moments of attachment or moments of anger, the cause is the anusya. The chaitana is the intention at those moments, but it's not one of the anusya. The anusya
No.
are the
yes, but the intention is feeded by the anusya. It's like
right.
Feeded
by the
by
the anusya, that condition, that akusala that arises together with the chaitana. Yes.
Yeah.
And all the chaitasikas arising together condition each other. So they all feed off each other at those moments.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the anusyas, these are the seven akusala chaitasikas that all other akusala depends on or feeds off. That's why these 7 are mentioned. So
can you say that again? Sorry.
the 7 anusia that are given are 7 akusala tendencies. And of course, there are more akusala tendencies, but these are the 7 that all the other akusala feeds off.
Yeah.
For example, if there is no ill will, there cannot be any stinginess, for example. So ill will is anusia, but without that anusia, then there would be no stinginess. So all the other akusala feed off those tendencies.
Great. Thank you.
Not easy, simple, not simple.
Yeah.
No.
But I think really important.
And when it comes, and when it comes to a quality like Chaitana, the Chaitana, because it arises with every chitta, the Chaitana itself can be kusala, akusala, vipaka, or kiriya. So when it arises with the akusala chitta and other akusala chaitasikas, then it is akusala, feeding off the akusala tendencies and also conditioning them in turn. When it arises with kusala, then it arises with other kusala chaitasikas.
And when it's kiriya, it's also just a coordinator?
At every moment in life, it coordinates. When it arises with kiriya in our lifetime, not the arahat's lifetime, in our lifetime, the kiriya chittas are inoperative chittas, like the sense-stored birth in consciousness. So Chaitana is there coordinating, that's all. In the case of the arahat, then instead of having kusala chittas, there are kiriya chittas.
Yeah.
So the Chaitana has its own function there of willing good at those moments, but the arahat doesn't have kusala chittas, he has kiriya chittas.
And Sarah, it is said that the bhavangas are more common. So all those also Chaitana only coordinates, right?
Sorry, the bhavangas are more common, so Chaitana only.
So there are many, many moments of bhavanga, and that's vipaka.
Yes.
That's also where Chaitana only coordinates.
Only coordinates, yes, because they're all aura's out. So even though they may be like in this lifetime, as we discussed yesterday, kusala vipaka with sobana hetus, beautiful roots, even so Chaitana just coordinates because there's no willing of good or bad at those moments. It's just result. But it's still karma
right.
pachya.
And the moments that Chaitana is, let's say, active as cause are in relation to the bhavangas and vipakas, not so many, but they're so strong. The cause, the accumulations. Is that right?
Can you repeat it slowly?
Well, they're in the minority, the moments that there is causing. If we take all the chittas that arise, one after another, the moments that there's new causing Chaitana are not that many.
What about all the akusala chittas, even now, even after seeing, hearing, when thinking, countless akusala chittas? Who can count or say not so many?
Yes, but I'm just saying in relation to bhavangas. Not, of course, there are many, but not in relation to how many bhavangas are there where Chaitana only coordinates and it's latent. Right or not?
I have never thought about whether there are more or less akusala chittas in a day than bhavanga chittas. Of course, during deep sleep, only bhavangas, but now who can compare the akusala chittas and bhavanga on? I don't think it's helpful, but anyway.
And what would be the significance of that comparison?
No, But I thought it was heard that there are more bhavangas arising in general. That's all. Well, the significance,
Yes.
Jonathan, is just that when it does arise, it's so influential. That's all.
Our life in samsara is bhavanga citta, and it's always bhavanga unless and until it's interrupted by a sense door or mind door experience. So that is the base, if you like, of life in samsara, the bhavanga. So it's not remarkable that there should be more bhavanga than anything else, if that's the case.
Well, maybe it's a good reminder for Carmen. I was just trying to give her the picture. It's not all the time common, but as you say, it's a base of bhavangas. That's all that I wanted to say.
I think the main point is that Chaitanya is there with all those citas, no matter the result citas, the bhavanga citas, or the cause, the kusala and akusala. And at each moment, it is karma pachya by way of sahajata, by way of conditioning the accompanying citta and chaitasikas, but only at the moments of kusala and akusala, the many, many moments of akusala, then the Chaitanya also performs the function of willing akusala and conditioning the other chaitasikas and citta arises with and being conditioned by them. And that is when the akusala accumulates at those moments. Because I think at the beginning, Carmen, you asked about how the Lobha dosa moha now has its root in the past. So each time Lobha now arises, it conditions a little more Lobha, it accumulates. And the same with Panya. This is why we have the discussions, because the understanding also accumulates. So whatever is kusala or akusala accumulates. So this has a different cause from the vipaka, which is the result of past karma.
I was just thinking, Shanti, too, about your comments with regarding bhavanga. Bhavanga, as you probably know, but literally means becoming factor. So they are life supporting, and we can say they, and as Jonathan alluded to, they're interrupted by sense and mind door process. So they're just, so we can say they are factors of life, or becoming bhava being being. Without them, life couldn't be. Bhavanga, anga, of course, means a factor or a wing or a supporting condition, perhaps we could say. So without them, they're there, which we don't know anything about them. Usually the Buddha would know whether, with that person, they've got 2 or 3 roots. Whether there's wisdom there or not, and but they're interrupted by sense of mind or process. Then obviously the kusala or a kusala which was followed, which we know would be mostly a kusala. It was an interesting question you asked, but I think as Jonathan said, they're just, we can't measure them, and there's really not too much of reason to do that. It's just the way it is, I guess we can say.
Thank you, Sunra. Yeah, and also for, I was thinking with Carmen, for me, it took a while to realize that the Lobha Mula Citta, Moha Mula Citta, and Dosa Mula Citta only, this is a question, but I'm thinking about it, arise when there are jhavanas. Is that correct?
Yeah, sure, exactly right. Only in the jhana process can you have You can have a kusala or kusala, of course, so which means running through when there's that kiriya chitta or the watupana has arisen. That's a condition for the following 7 jhavanas. And the first one is the weakest, and the last one is also the second weakest, and the ones in between, the second to the 5th, for what it's worth, are the strongest. And they can be, might be just an accumulation of lopa or accumulation of dosa, or it might be kusala kamapata at both, either of those levels. It depends upon conditions, what's going to arise, So as you said, jhana will be kusala, or of course it can be kiriya in the case of the arahata. But yeah.
Yeah, because thank you. Karma was asking the relation between loba, moha, dosa, and thinking. And it took a while for me, but it's very helpful to know that it's, of course, too fast to experience, but to know that it's in these sense door and minder processes, when the jhavanas arise, that these loba mula chitta, dosa mula chitta, and moha mula chitta arise and cause with chaitanya.
And the jhavana is the function of the kusala or akusala citta to run through the object. And so what we call thinking is always kusala or akusala citta. And that's regardless of whether that includes thinking about purely conceptual things or abstract things like yesterday or tomorrow, or whether it's thinking about the object that has been experienced through the sense door and relating it to other objects and forming the picture of people and things and the world as we perceive it to be.
It's for the first time that running through the object has a different meaning now. Maybe you have that too, Carmen? The running through is not just running through, but it's completely also tainting it.
I think the point that Jonathan's stressing, Shanti, is that we may talk about the jhavana process or the jhavana chittas arising and falling as we did, but actually they're the kusala and akusala chittas that arise in the process, and the kusala and akusala chittas that arise and fall away. And jhavana is a function that they have. So we're just distinguishing between the nature of the chittas and the function.
And I suppose, Shanti, when you think about jhavana, that's what literally means. It's jhavati, it means to run or to move through. Because once it starts, jhavana process, and there are 7 moments there. It won't go to 1 or 2. It'll always, well, actually, mostly we'll say this. I won't count the other ones, but it's mostly 7 moments, and it starts. It's actually by way of what's called a sewanapachya. So it's just one repeating the next, and it can't deviate from that. And the first one's a kusala. They'll all be a kusala. So it's like it's a moving through. The word jhavana, which means to run, but it's just and it does, of course, move very, very quickly, as you can imagine, or perhaps probably beyond their imagination. It just goes very, very quickly, and whether the first one's a kusala, then they'll all be a kusala.
That's a good question from Carmen.
I think while these are helpful, and I think it's important to tease them all out as much as you possibly can, I think, as Tanajan reminds us, that the present reality is really important to always bear in mind if the conditions support that. And in the beginning, I don't think, for myself anyway, it wasn't particularly clear, but it becomes clearer over time. But you know, to remember what is the important, why we study all these matters, and they are very interesting. They can help us to appreciate the conditionality of everything, and that can be helpful. It's all completely not self, anatta. So just knowing this may be helpful in many cases, but it's always important to come back to present reality to begin to appreciate the whole Abhidhamma. And as Ajahn says, you know, Abhidhamma is this moment. It's not necessarily knowing about the 7 jhanas or the 5 jhanas before death. That's not so important. It can be helpful, but not necessarily so important.
And Carmen, you asked about the thinking now, thinking about past actions, for example. So what conditions the thinking now? Why is there thinking about this and not that, about the lunch but not the breakfast, about this person and not that person, this color, not that color? What conditions the thinking now?
What conditions the thinking? Most of the time it's the seeing or the hearing or yeah, things like that.
Right.
The
If there hadn't been any seeing or hearing, there couldn't be any thinking about what was seen or heard. And also memory. If there hadn't been the memory, the sanya arising with each citta, marking and remembering what was seen, what was heard, what was thought about before, what was the sounds that were spoken and considered, there couldn't be the thinking about the meaning of the terms now, the thinking about what was seen and heard. So sanya memory plays a very important role in conditioning thinking. Without memory, no thinking about anything. And sanya is like chaitana, it arises with every citta, so it can be kusala, kusala, vipaka, or kiriya. When it's kusala or akusala, like whilst thinking about the Dhamma now, what life is now, the sanya also accumulates along with the understanding so that there can be the recognition and the memory of what has been considered later. So without sanya now, nothing heard could be remembered at all. Nothing could be recalled at all. And most of the, yes, go on.
Sorry.
Most of the sanya is akusala sanya, marking and remembering all sorts of unimportant things, conditioning akusala thinking of attachment, and akusala thinking with aversion. So at those moments, it is akusala sanya with the attachment or the aversion. And this is daily life, and it's now, sanya now, remembering, marking, whatever is experienced at this moment, no matter it's sound or visible object or the idea that is thought about.
I think you can't say it like this, but sanya also plays a big part in keeping us in samsara. Or can you not say it like that?
Yes, well, it's true that without sanya, without the perversion of sanya, without akusala sanya, at all those moments conditioning akusala thinking, without that akusala thinking, there wouldn't be the karma accumulated that brings results in future. So sanya does play a very important role.
Sanya too. No, keep going, Sarah.
I was going to say marking and remembering the feeling. So there's clinging to the pleasant feeling, which sanya has marked and remembered, trying again and again to have that pleasant feeling on account of what has been seen or heard or tasted. So we attach a lot of importance to what Sanya marks and remembers all day.
It's got a it's significant too, Carmen, because it's a kanda by itself. So that points to the fact that it's an important facet of Dhamma, and people place a big significance on, or a large significance on, memory. And obviously that's a condition for a lot of attachment. Same with one of the other khandas, Vedana. The other ones, we place a lot of significance on feelings and memory. So much hinges on these for attachment and also for how we see life. And the other khanda, or three other khandas, but the other Chaitasikas, so two of those, Sanya and Vedana, then the other 50 Chaitasikas have got just come under the name of Sankara Khanda. So it's significant what you said about Sanya. There is great importance attached to it.
On the other hand, Carmen. On the other hand, Carmen, Sanya is not the problem. The problem is the attachment and ignorance. So Sanya
plays a big role. Yeah, it's not a problem.
In a sense, because Sanya is never eradicated, for example. Sanya remains, and for the Arahat, he or she needs Sanya in order to live out the rest of this life before Parinibbana.
Sanya is just Sanya. Yeah, but it's the clinging, you're right, and the wrong view. Yeah, thank you for this correction. Yeah. Thank you all for helping me putting out my question.
Ajahn, I'm not sure if you were speaking, but we couldn't hear you.
I didn't say anything yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we learned about the words of the Buddha, which just represent realities in order to understand what is there, not just in the book. So now the reality, Dhamma, is here and now. We'll talk about akusala now. So we begin with, if there is anusya at this very moment too, it's not in the book. Now this moment, is there anusya now? And when we talk anusaya, we mean the akusala. When we talk about asaya, not only akusala, the accumulation of what is there which has happened, even is gone. It has tainted the citta to be different ways, more or less of akusala, depending on conditions, how many moments, what arise more of this, that. So this very moment is the anusaya. We talk about anusaya, kilesa. We know the meaning of it. So the very moment is the anusaya, kilesa.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
How many anusaya, kilesa now?
Many.
Kinds of anusaya, kilesa. we remember the number.
No.
So just one by one to know, understand this very moment in truth. And anusya, how many kinds of anusya are there now at any moment of life? No matter what citta, depending on the understanding, different level, as just the one who has enlightened the truth and the one who has enlightened the truth at level of Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, Arahata. So now we talk about anusya in life at any moment. How many anusya is there?
There must be 7 because none have been eradicated. So every moment in life, every moment of kusala, vipaka, akiriya, all 7 anusyas are there. But not conditioning any arising of akusala. So the first 2, which are eradicated by the Sotapanna, are dittanusya, the latent tendency of wrong view, and the other one is doubt, vicikiccha anusya. So vicikiccha anusya and dittanusya, these are 2 anusyas that are there at every moment in life until eradicated at the stage of Sotapanna.
So at this very moment, how many anusya are there? In a moment?
Yeah, seven. Can only there must be 7 Tanajan, but
yeah,
there must be 7.
So
well, the first one was,
I'll just carry on with them. So the dittanusya and the vicikiccha anusya, these are the first 2 that are eradicated the stage of Sotapanna. And then there are the 2 that are eradicated by the anagami when there's no clinging to sense objects. So these are the clinging to sense objects, the kamachanda anusya, and also the patiga anusya, the aversion for the anagami, no more.
it's not kamachanda, Sarah.
Aversion.
Not kamachanda, Lucia.
Kamanusya.
No, kamaraga anusya.
Kamaraga anusya. Anyway, it's clinging to sense objects. It's the meaning that's important. Kamaraga anusya and patiga anusya, the aversion. When there's no clinging to sense objects, there's no aversion to sense objects. So these 2 are eradicated by the anagami, and the last 3 only eradicated by the arahat. So this is the very subtle clinging to becoming the bijanusya, the last remnants of ignorance, and mana, the very last remnants of mana, which are eradicated at the stage of arahat only. So these 7 anusyas are there, lying latent with the citta at every moment in life until they're eradicated.
So now we know the number of anusya. Shall we talk about one by one at this very moment? How many anusyas are there?
So let's look at this present moment, Tanajanka.
How many
anusyas are? Well, we can say, because we can certainly say there is kamaraga anusya latent there, and that's manifests itself by way of lobha. So that's quite common, I imagine.
How many altogether are there now?
They're all there, but they don't arise.
How many?
They're all there latent, but depending on conditions, there might, for example, be a lobha mula citta right now, So that's dependent on Patiga, Akamaraga Nusia.
How many are there now? It's 7.
Yeah, 7. Yeah,
right?
there must be only 7 Ajahn. There's always 7, unless you're enlightened.
All 7, right?
Jinka.
Are there?
Yeah, there must
Okay.
be.
So what appears as akusala?
Well, lobha or dosa.
Okay. Does it appear lopa now?
Yes. Dosa does too. Both of them.
Lopa
Well,
of what?
very close.
Lopa of what now?
Lopa of the object.
I particularly what
Seeing.
object?
Well,
An
visual object. Let's take visual object, Tanajan Cup.
So now there is attachment to the visual object, right?
Cup.
Can it be known now?
Can be Tanajan.
Really?
Well, it can be. Can in English means potentiality. I'm not saying
For
it is.
sure.
Sorry, Tanajan, didn't hear your point. Didn't hear your question.
So now we're talking about akusala reality. They are different by different degrees and different characteristics. In order to really understand, it has to be at this very moment the difference of different characteristics of akusala. And the other are aswa and so on. So we learn to understand this moment when we talk about anusaya. How many anusaya are there? For sure, 7 or 7, as long as one hasn't been Sotapanna yet. So there must be all 7s, right? Okay, no, that all 7 anusaya at any time with citta. No matter it is Pavanga or seeing or hearing or smelling or tasting, arises their tendency, not out of citta, not out of further way around or place or anything. It's within citta, see? Its place is kept there. So there are all 7 anusaya now. And at this moment, there are 7 anusaya. And what else? Because we understand the different degrees of akusala. So now, we can simply say there is attachment, but what degree? Okay. Otherwise, we don't understand the truth of reality. That no matter what level, it's still akusala. No one there at all. And in order to understand this very moment, when we talk about anusaya or at the level, nivarana and so on, it's there at the moment when it's there at that level. So now there must be 7 anusaya. And at this very moment, no doubt, or 7 anusaya, what is akusala right now? Can it be known?
It can be Tanajan.
What moment?
At this moment.
Okay. What kilesa is there at this moment?
Well, in terms of kilesa being there, there's lobha. There's bound to be there some degree of lobha.
So you mean that now there is lobha at very weak level, right?
Ka.
Very subtle, very weak.
Ka.
Can that be known? Can that very weak lobha be known?
It can be Tanajan.
So what about asava?
There must be kamasava. There is a
now.
yes.
What can be known? Well,
the kilesi can be known, but not necessarily not the Karmasava. That's too subtle.
That's why can this moment be known as there is akusala, because it is akusala chitta, right? But we don't talk about the vipaka and kriya. We talk about akusala, so we talk about different levels of akusala cetasika, which arises at moment of javana. So at this moment, we don't talk about vipaka and kriya or kusala. We just talk about akusala moment to understand what is there that we have about it. So at this moment, what chitta is there?
Lobhamula chitta cup.
Lopamula chitta. Is it known?
Can be known, Tanajan.
Not can, just can it be, is it known? Can know, and is that moment know it?
Yes, it can be known. It can be known, Tanajan.
Sundara, I think what Achan is pointing at is that right now there's no obvious akusala as in lying, stealing, or anything like that. It's very slight. So is it really known?
So that which cannot known at all because it's so slight at this very moment when it doesn't appear so strong, it is asava. So very weak. As the asava, as the anusaya, it arises to be asava, unknown all the time. What is there? Flower, it's there already. Attachment to that which is seen, kamaswa. Instantly, who knows, because chitta and cetasikas are rising and falling away so very rapidly. So how can just one be known as it's so weak? That's why when it is asava and anusaya, see, we talk about the arahata, kinasava. The asava has been eradicated, which means that no anusaya to condition even just very weak. So what can be known is not at level of asava, when panya is not strong enough to understand the reality as it is. It's there. That's why the eradication of akusala is so very, very difficult, very hard, not soon as one thing at all. We can talk about it, but when it's there, no one knows. It's there already in a day. Just get up. Who knows whether it is akusala, at what level? But when you want so much to do this, there is the level of love which appears as there is wanting to do something. So it's not like at moment when you walk out and then you see many things each moment, and what are there when it's not the object of very, very passionate to the object at that very moment. That's why learn to understand the subtlety of all dhammas, no matter we talk about nibbana or sanyojana or asava. Sorry, someone is coming.
I think somebody might have their microphone on.
Yes, because someone is coming in the room. So I stopped for a while. What is that? What level of akusala? Is it known?
Mostly not, Tanajan.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Tanajan.
So is that akusala now?
Attachment, mostly.
Does it appear to be known?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
thinking?
Yes. Also,
But what appears is that which is seen, right? That which is heard. Can anyone know about the moment of Ashwa there? After 3 moments seeing, arising in the following way. 3 moments after that, Ashwa there. And Chitta arises so very rapidly, like sitting on the train running so fast. How can you know what is there which has been seen, which has seen before, just from moment to moment? See, that's why we talk about the understanding of the truth as no one, because there can be the understanding, more details, more subtlety of Dhammas, that it cannot be taken for anyone or anything at all. Otherwise, we underestimate that the truth can be known easily. Like now, we can say what appears is visible object, but in truth, what appears is not visible object, because it's there as nimitta already, not only nimitta of the visible object, but also the nimitta of the shape and form, the nimitta things around. So what are the akusala? What level? So when you do not like anything so much, more enough to be, you cannot know akusala at different levels. Because even it's there, it's me, not understanding the truth. It's no one at all. That's why I learned to understand the different degrees of akusala. That is there, sometimes unknown and sometimes it's known. So what kind of akusala is there now? See, in the book, but now, is there attachment? What level? Is it the Kamachantani Varana? Or not that level? Only a moment of life, something very weak and then gone. Or like it very much that conditioned moment of clinging to it on and on and on, as Nivarana.
Ajahn, I have a question. I have so much pain on the wound on my leg, and then there's aversion immediately. But I find it hard to understand that I think it's me, like you warn us that we think immediately, it's me.
But you understand about Dhamma, Citta, and Cetasika, right? And it begins to develop. At moment of painful feeling is there. It's not time to understand it, but it's time to take it for self. It can be known that you told me just a moment ago, it's me. It means that right understanding knows that at that moment it's the akusala taking that from me, while in truth it's not anyone because it's gone completely from moment to moment, so fast that it cannot be known the moment when it arises and falls away. And this is the truth, to be truthful in the beginning, to understand life in general, no matter at any moment, is only that which appears and then gone. So we study the words in the book about the truth of life at any moment, to be conditioned, to not forget it, to condition moment of beginning to experience it with understanding. For example, hardness now. Before we talk about it, it's the unknown. Many things like seeing, liking, and so on. But when we talk about it, hardness begin to be object of understanding. It's a reality for sure, because it's there hard. And hardness is there, not known as only hardness. But hardness is taken from many things, plate and fork and food and water and so on. So what is the absolute truth of a reality in life. When there is more understanding, even at level of intellectual understanding, it develops little by little in life. Who knows how much it's there? Because there are conditions, akusala accumulated much more in a day, in life, eons and eons. So a moment of kusala, it's rare, and the panya has to go develop against akusala. That's why there must be parami, like Kartik parami. It doesn't mean that we sit a long time with patience to try to understand that. It's not like that at all. Without panya, nothing can be parami. But when there is the understanding how subtle reality now, the truth of it, that it's conditioned to arise just to see only that object which is visible, no shape, no form yet. But when it arises and falls away more and more, it conditions shape and form to be taken for I have painful feeling. See, even the feeling is taken for me or I. In truth, it's conditioned to arise to be just that object. There must be anusaya, no understanding the truth, tittanusaya, avijjanusaya, and titti, see, accumulated quite so long. And that is the understanding of the truth, how much ignorance and how very little right understanding is there. So it knows different levels of understanding. This is intellectual understanding about the truth. But if there's no intellectual understanding of any reality at all, how can hardness be the object of understanding? It's just a reality like anything, like seeing, hearing, thinking, or right understanding. Different realities in life. And this is a way to begin to gradually understand the truth. So the wrong understanding and ignorance gradually get away, or we do not have it at that very moment, letting go by right understanding. And the understanding of the truth condition all kinds of paramis, because understanding that akusala is there by ignorance, and no one can stop its arising as long as ignorance is there, as anusaya, or now, moment of not understanding what is there as it is. Javana is akusala with piti, and so on. This is to understand this very moment from hearing, considering what Buddha said long time ago about the truth. What is there, not in the book, but to understand what is there now. As we studied his word carefully, to understand that actually only that which can be known is that which appears. For example, anusaya does not appear. No one knows about it. But when there is attachment, how come? Where is the conditions for attachment or aversion? See, that is the beginning of the still anusaya to condition that level of akusala. So now we do not eliminate the akusala in this moment, but the level of asya is letting go little by little at moment when understanding is there by itself. So no matter what we are talking about, it conditions moment of beginning to understand that it's there, when and in what situation. Any situation, the truth is the truth, depending on how much understanding is that very moment with direct awareness, because it's time, but the intellect understanding develops enough to condition that moment instantly, unknowingly. And this is the understand the truth of whatever is there. Now, by conditions, without conditions, nothing can arise at all. No matter it's right understanding or ignorance or attachment or doubt, it's there by conditions. Not just at moment when realizing that reality at level of vipassana jnana, but it has to be being able to understand what is there by different degree. Before hearing about the truth, no understanding at all. After hearing about the truth of those reality, intellectually, right understanding knows that no one there to do anything, only understanding at that very moment conditions the moment with understanding directly of a reality right now. How come it's there before, never known the truth of it? But when there is understanding, it begins to have a little more chanda, interest, attention, and aware with level of understanding, little by little. And this is life, this is truth in life. This is a way to let go ignorance, attachment, wrong understanding, and doubt. Truthfully, Satya Parami in daily life, without Satya in daily life, how can there be Satya Parami to condition moment of understanding what is there as usual, normally, as not as anyone at all, little by little, anytime, by conditions. If someone waits for it, waits to have it, Lopa is there. Like we talked about yesterday, see, the enlightened wisdom of the Buddha, who can know, and who knows that at that moment, absorbed by desire to understand it, which is impossible. It hinders the understanding of that very moment, unknown. So that's why one is drawn by Lopa to other things, not to understand what is there now. Just learning about the truth of life little by little. And then there can be the understanding of what is there in the words of the teaching about the truth. Otherwise, where is it? Where is Anusya and where is the Aswa? But it's now and here at this very moment. Understand or no understanding. And no one at all, no matter is understanding or ignorance. It takes quite a long time, great patience, and satya, and letting go. Renunciation, to have no ignorance and clingings of that which used to be object of clinging and ignorance.
So Ajahn, only Panya can know it's me, and there is the desire to understand that.
And Panya knows now the moment of desire. If it cannot be known, it's not Panya, it's their ignorance and attachment, more or less, by understanding the truth. How much understanding and how less understanding of that which appears.
And Panya can understand that strong desire not to take it as my arm, my wound, yes, my body. But it's conditioned already like that. It's conditioned to instantly take it for something, my leg, my wound. And it's just more clinging, wishing that not to think like that. But it has to be like that. It can't be
Yeah.
any other way,
That's good. Yeah.
because those tendencies, the nausea of ignorance and wrong view, haven't been eradicated. So there's bound to be taking it for something, my wound, my leg,
Yeah.
continuously from time to time, again and again. So the strong desire not to think like that doesn't help at all.
No. Very good. Very good. That's very true. Yeah.
And Sukin, we read that only the Buddha could know any asya and usya, any being. And of course, in truth, no being, no Buddha, no being, no one who puts attention or whatever he puts his mind to. We know no one who can do anything, that there are just different chitas, cetasikas and rupas when we refer to the Buddha and putting his mind to this and that. But even so, there is that great wisdom that could understand the asya and anusya of any being at those moments, incomparable to the wisdom of any other, and not just by inference. But as Ajahn said, if there's the just wishing to know and trying to understand, and the clinging hinders the understanding of what appears now.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Without the Buddha's great wisdom, we wouldn't know about any of these anusyas or any of these details at all.
Yeah.
And I think, as Ajahn said, Nina, patience is so important, because yes, the anusyas are there conditioning akusala all the time, my wound, my leg. So that's why there has to be great patience developed with understanding.
And listening again and again. You have to hear this all the time.
At least in theory, we know that it's wrong understanding when it's my wound, my arm, but it doesn't mean there isn't going to be thinking like that again and again and again. My cough, my throat issue, all these things, it's all me and my, because
Yes.
of the anusya of ditthi, which conditions the taking for something all the time, and avijja, the ignorance, tendency of ignorance, conditioning the not understanding. Even now, like as Ajahn said, we can say there's attachment now, but is there understanding of attachment now? No, it's something, it's someone's, it's my attachment. It's not really the understanding of attachment right now.
Coming back to Carmen's question, the relation to thinking, it really so much helps in daily life when there's a little conventional, of course, intellectual understanding. Like yesterday, my boyfriend put the wrong herbs. He used piri piri, which is very sharp, instead of, how do you say that, paprika? Anyway, and I got stomachache from it. And he was really sorry. But I realized it was Vipaka anyway, and he was just concept and in the way of that to facilitate my story. So it deviated me from being angry to a concept, and funny things like that happen. And I realize it's because of listening so much to the Dhamma.
And they're just moments in life, all gone. Yes, like the pain from the wound, or the stomach pain, or the cough. It's all gone. And now another moment of seeing, another moment of hearing, another moment of thinking, and remembering the story from yesterday because of sanya, memory, Carmen. Otherwise, there couldn't be the thinking about it.
And the death of my father, it's so helpful. This thought gone. And it's, of course, the sanya comes up with memories, but there's no, I'm grateful for it, no doubt that it's just gone. Well, of course, there's new life, but it's not anymore my dad. So there's more curiosity, maybe, for an instant. Oh, new life. And then the reflection gone. It's so helpful.
And all those memories, all those stories, all those adventures that seem so important at the time, but actually they're just dreams, just fantasies about what happened in the past. And
right, because my sisters went in the house and they took all his stuff and pictures and albums, and I don't even have need to go back there, because for me, well, anyway, yeah, it would have been so different if I didn't listen to the Dhamma.
But Chanti, who knows tomorrow? All 7 Anusyas are still there.
Oh, I'm just talking about what I know. I don't know tomorrow. No expectation either.
Can I ask something? Because Ajahn talked about learn the different degrees of akusala, and can we elaborate a little bit more on that?
At the moment of killing and the moment of just disliking, are they the same degree?
Different degrees. Okay, that's what you meant. Thank you. I thought that maybe you meant like the different degrees when it's still a late tendency, or when it's really going into action. I thought that you meant that different kind of degrees.
Latent tendency doesn't arise at all, but it's conditioned for anything that is there to arise as asava, performing the function of a kusala reality. For now, at moment of saying many things, there must be asava, avijjasava, not understanding the truth, kamasava, clinging to the object which is seen, sensuous object, who do not like sensuous object, in truth. Whatever is there is the object of attachment with wrong understanding, taking it for something permanent. So it conditions attachment more and more, different degrees too, because not understanding that it's not there anymore, it's gone. That's why there is many levels of understanding what is there by conditions, because what arises is only once in samsara, never to arise again. That's why no matter what level of unreality, like attachment or aversion, can be known, its level at moment when it's there and then gone. All these words now conditions the moment of understanding a little more, little by little. It doesn't show up at any moment that we expect, but it's there when it unexpected, because there are conditions for it to arise. That's why the moment of enlightenment cannot be known at all, how and when it will arise. That's why there are many degrees of understanding of the truth. At this level, no doubt that seeing is not always there, and it's shorter than that. As soon as it has a reason, sees, performing its function, and then gone. How many moments? If one would like to know, that is attachment. But the understanding understands that without understanding, there cannot be any understanding of the truth of what is there appearing. But it's there, so it's real. And what is the truth of it? Without considering, no one can understand the truth of it. But when there's the word of truth about it, it conditions moment of understanding the truth a little more, which can condition direct awareness with understanding unexpectedly of any object, because the object hasn't arisen yet now. But one day, who knows? What is the object of enlightenment? What is the object for Sariputta to enlighten? Unknown before. And life is just like that. No one can expect anything to arise at all, because what arises is by conditions unexpectedly. What are you thinking? Not known before the moment of thinking, but there must be condition for thinking to arise, to be such and such citta, with kindness or with wrong view or with attachment, who knows? Each moment is unknown when it's not arising yet. So just understand that which is there, arisen, appears, not that which hasn't arisen yet. So now what appears is the object of understanding, little by little. No leaf, no doll, only that which is seen, nimitta of the different shape and form, live in the world of thought, of thinking, the dream world about what is there. So long, not just very shortly. What is there? A bird sitting on the branch, see? How come? Only that which appears is seen different color. That's all. And each moment is gone unknowingly until there is the understanding of one object, a characteristic, which is different from the other. That's why there can be the beginning of understanding a reality at a time. Seeing is not hearing, but it seems like they are together. It's wrong because it cannot arise together. It's different moments, different citta. So having more understanding, it can condition the moment of hearing and understanding that very moment. No word as it hears or no word that sees. They are, and right understanding begin to be aware. Condition direct awareness of a reality. So we don't just talk about the word like sati and satipatthana and so on, with understanding the nature of reality as they are all dhammas. No, and dhamma means no one and no thing at all. It has its own characteristic, conditioned to be just like that. Even heart is conditioned to be at that level of hardness or heat or cold. All by conditions arising and falling away non-stop. Is it precious to have it, which is not permanent? No matter is wealth, beauty, or anything. Not last at all. It's gone, a moment to moment, until it shows up. It gets old, it's not like before and so on. Even the chair or the bed or anything, or the trees, flowers. Non-stop. Ignorance condition is arising on and on because there is attachment as condition for it to arise.
And sometimes,
Yes, please.
sorry, I was going to say, Carmen, sometimes the texts divide the defilements, the kilesa, into three kinds. The anusia, which, as we discussed, are the defilements that don't arise at all, but without them, there couldn't be the arising. And then the second category are the pariyutana kilesa. This is when they rise up, when even if there's just a little attachment or a little dosa, it arises, but it's not strong enough to perform unwholesome deeds or actions. And the third kind are the vitikama kilesa. So this is when the defilements are strong enough to, when the 10 kinds of akusala kama pata are committed, that can bring results later. So different degrees of akusala, the anusia, the pariyutana, and the vitikama, when it is of the degree of kamapata, complete course of action that can produce results by way of vipaka and rupas conditioned by karma in future.
Thank you.
Sarah, I'm not hearing you clearly. The volume suddenly went down. Would you kindly repeat that?
Sorry, Eve, thank you for letting me know. Can you hear better now?
No, it sounds like a bit like a whisper.
I can hear you, Sarah.
You can hear
I
me.
do hear you, yeah.
Yeah,
Is
we
it
hear
clear?
can hear you too clearly.
Okay. Eve, I think the others seem to be able to hear. Could you hear what I said, Han, before? Okay, it's all clear. Anyway, I just repeat briefly, Eve. So I was just mentioning there are three levels of akusala referred to. The anusia are the latent tendencies which don't arise, but are there like microbes ready to condition akusala in future. And as Ajahn was stressing, all the anusias, all 7 anusias are here right now with every chitta, like microbes being carried from one chitta to another, even at moments of panya, the 7 anusias are there. And the pariyutana that they condition are the kilesa when they arise, however slight, but not yet of a degree that they can be kamapata, a course of action that can bring result in future. And when the akusala is strong, when it is vitikama kilesa, this is when the 10 kinds of akusala kamapata are committed that can bring results in future. So different degrees of akusala. Akusala can be defined in different ways. Like earlier, we were talking about the asavas, which is the very slight akusala when it arises. So this is one kind of pariyutana kilesa, because it's not of a degree that can be kamapata, but it is more than anusia because it has arisen already. But it's helpful to know that even now the anusias are now, and even now the very slight akusala, the very slight asavas, slight ignorance, wrong view, attachment. It's there, it's now, but it's not known. So when Ajahn was asking, is it known? And in theory, yes, it can be, but by what great wisdom? It's not known. It's not known now.
So Sarah, can you say that the anusaya kilesa does not appear, just only pariyutana and vitikama?
The anusia kilesa cannot appear because it doesn't arise. So it can never appear at all. Only the Buddha's wisdom can penetrate and understand the different anusaya of all beings, but it doesn't arise, so it can't appear. The parayutana is the kilesa that has risen up, but when it's slight, it doesn't appear. When it's just a very little attachment, a very little aversion, it doesn't appear, even though it's there. If it's strong enough, there's very strong attachment to the delicious dish, then it appears, but usually it's taken for my attachment. Usually it's not the understanding of attachment as the reality. And when it's very strong enough to motivate stealing or telling a lie, for example, the strong attachment or the strong dosa may be apparent, but again, it's my attachment or my aversion. That is, usually it's not the understanding of the reality. So it depends on the understanding what is known and whether it is known as Dhamma or whether it's still taken for my attachment, my aversion to the wound, my clinging to something as usual. And so it's daily life. It's now different degrees of kilesa on account of what is seen and heard all the time, usually taken for something and for mine.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sarah.
Are you able to hear better now, Eve?
Yes, I did some adjustments with the sound here, and I'm hearing you better. Thank you kindly,
Okay.
Sarah.
Right, your sound is very loud and clear, so maybe that helps.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Shanti, yesterday in the note you mentioned feeling anxious when there were certain topics or people over talking and so on. But what is the reality when feeling anxious? Because it comes back again and again to now. So like during a discussion, if there's anxiety when questioned or when one hears something that one doesn't like, what is the truth then?
Dosa?
It's just a kind of dosa, yeah.
Domanassa?
Yeah.
Yes. Thinking?
That's it. Yeah. Conditioned by thinking and conditioned by clinging, yes.
Taking sound for voices and stories?
Right.
Yeah.
So this is more than anusaya because the dosa has arisen. It's the parayutana kilesa, but it's not vitikama, not enough to condition speaking harshly or causing some disturbance, for example. So it's parayutana kilesa. And it's daily life so common. We think the problem is the other sounds and the voices and the other people, but actually it comes back to this moment.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's the same as the herbs in food.
Just the same, just the same.
Right. Thank you for remembering me.
Usually it's straight away, it's the herbs or the other person or what was done or how I got COVID or this or that, but actually it's all back to this moment.
Yeah, but I have that inclination to with sound, I guess. So it's very good you remind me. It's good practice because the heart starts beating and everything, and it's very good to compare it to the herbs in the dish. Thank you.
And if there isn't the understanding now while discussing dhammas, then when? Yeah. And the patience with what is heard, patience with what is seen. Patience with other viewpoints, patience with interruptions, patience with this and that. And you were yesterday when you asked about the sutta about the speed of cheetahs, and I gave the reference, and we didn't quite follow it. You asked for the reference, but then you didn't mention what it was that you were considering or what your point was.
Didn't I? I think the point is that we were pinpointing, I think, Tadaradama, and I was just considering that how fast everything is, that it's impossible, even many process to pinpoint them, and I think that was it.
Okay.
Just to deviate from pinpointing, yeah.
How it's impossible to know or to pinpoint or to find this or that cheetah because they follow each other so rapidly. Yeah. But still, what appears now, the seeing or the clinging or the anxiety, it doesn't matter how fast the cheetahs arise and fall away, the characteristic that appears can be understood even now. And this is why the teachings and the development of Panya is so incredible, that in spite of that speed and the rapid succession of cheetahs arising and falling away, the nimitta of the reality can be known. The characteristic can be directly understood. We're seeing right now what is seen, a visible object right now. And then no thought at those moments of how many cheetahs or how fast or whether there's pinpointing, nothing at all, just the characteristic can be known right now. And this is the world at this moment.
Yes, and I guess it's about putting the perspective in balance again. Sometimes there's details, like we talked this morning about Chaitanya being coordinating or causing, and we're talking about the javanas, and it's very detailed, and then it puts it into perspective for me to hear again how incredibly tiny these are, and how great the Panya of the Buddha is. So it's one extreme to take one cheetah and analyze it, and the other extreme was very helpful, the speed of it. Yeah, thank you.
And what is most helpful is the understanding of just what appears right now. No need at that moment, no thinking about the speed or the details, but just the characteristic, the reality now, the hardness now, the pleasant feeling now, the unpleasant feeling, just what appears at this moment.
Sometimes there can be arrogance of knowing what is happening now. I guess sometimes I need the other extreme, because even now I can't know. So it helps when you ask me why. I wanted to quote about the speed. I think I know, but I know so little. So there can be arrogance about the Dhamma. And I know, I understand.
And that's wrong understanding too, because it's the idea of I that knows anyway. Yeah, so it's real too. It's the reality. It's a Dhamma, also not belonging to me or anyone. So it's gone too. And the way for it to be understood is to understand the nature of the Dhamma now, not to kind of think, oh, well, it's just one teacher in a process and there are many, many teachers and they're all arising, fall away so fast, but just understand the Dhamma that appears and then gone. But not by pinpointing or trying or doing, but it's the Dhamma, it can be known.
That's the word the word of the day, gone. The inside humor of DSG.
Gone. If you tell other non-Dhamma friends that, oh, it's such a relief when thinking about your father's passing away, gone, they won't appreciate it at all. But we can appreciate how helpful it is to reflect that whatever arises is gone. In truth, no one there, no one was there before, no one there now. Just like everyone here, in truth, no one there at all. Just different visible objects, each one gone. John, the other day, Vincent's not here now because he's traveling back to Taiwan now. But when he was talking about the different aspects of the khandas the other day, into how we read about whatever rupa there is, past, future, present, internal, external, gross or subtle, and so on. And you were mentioning, but I didn't quite catch it. You said that when referring to past, future, present, you said it was referring to the arising and falling away of the rupa. Was that correct?
Also nama and all conditions, reality.
Any khanda, yes. But you were saying that the past, future, present was referring to the arising and falling away of whatever khanda it is, the rupa or the Vedana or the Sanya. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think that we just didn't talk about group or kalapa, because all conditioned realities arise and fall away.
Yes, and because when it goes on, for example, he was asking about internal and external. Well, the internal, the ajatika, as far as I understand, refers to the 5 sense spaces, and the bahira, the external, to all the other, if we're talking about rupa, to the other 23 rupas, and the gross to the sense spaces and sense objects, and the subtle to the other rupas, and so on. But the first part, the past, future, and present, when you mentioned it, just refers to the arising and falling away of rupa. But why would it mention future there if it is just referring to the arising and falling away of rupa or any khanda?
And nama as well, not only rupa.
And yes, and nama as well. But if it's referring to the arising and falling away of any conditioned Dharma, why mention future in it?
As this moment's gone, what is the next?
Right. So
it's the future which has come to be present.
Yes. Okay. So it's just right of referring to this moment, the arising and falling away, followed by the next one.
Yeah, but I'm wondering whether knowing the past and the present is also not knowing the future, because this present is the future of the past.
But this was more specific, referring to this moment.
Is it now present, and then past, and then future?
Because at the moment of the arising and falling away, it is immediately past and immediately followed by future, even at this very moment. And as you say, this was in connection with the any group of khandhas as a kalapa. So each one is arising and falling away now, and each one is
at all. It depends on how much understanding of the truth.
Right.
Past is yesterday, future is tomorrow, and present is today and now. But in truth, our reality itself, when it arises, at that moment it's present because it appears and then gone past. That which is present is past, and the next moment, which hasn't it is there. See, before it's there, it's future. To condition to arise. Who knows which one? But it's not that very moment, it's the next moment. And without the very clear understanding of that which appears to the high level of understanding, how can there be the understanding of past is just very short, and then future, because it's present and gone, and then next again.
Because the more the understanding is developed, the closer and closer it gets to this moment and the understanding of the past, present, and future now, because of the understanding of the arising and falling away of the khandha, the reality at this moment. And that's why it's the understanding of what is khandha, the reality that arises and falls away directly, not by inference.
Even directly, it's by way of nimitta. That's why all Dhamma,
by nimitta.
Only that which appears through fixed ways can be known.
Yes, by way of nimitta.
Mm-hmm. Because there are other moments which does not appear, like Sampatichana Santirana or Panchadavara Vachana, Taralambana, and so on. So it's the nimitta of a characteristic of our reality. And actually, there are many moments to condition such nimitta to be known.
Anyway, I thought that was very, interesting and helpful, that I hadn't considered the understanding of when we read about each khandha, past, future, present. I hadn't considered it all to be just about this moment and the understanding that has to develop deeper and deeper now, so that when it is the understanding, like it says, of the arising and falling away, it is the understanding right now of what is meant by past, future, present.
And I was thinking, Sarah, that even every word, past, future, present, wouldn't Pandya actually know in terms of reality, right? Otherwise, it's just an idea, just like what everyone knows about yesterday, today, and
Yes.
tomorrow, right?
So when we're talking about this deep understanding, it's not just a kind of inference of which someone was suggesting about what happened yesterday or how it'll be the same as tomorrow, but it's actually the direct understanding of what appears now, the nimitta of the reality that appears right now.
I appreciated what you said, Kunsakin, about the present is the future of the past. That's them all together. I appreciate the way you put that.
Otherwise, they cannot be letting go the idea of self and atta. That's why Panya has to develop to the degree that it can directly experience the truth of the arising and falling away of nimitta of reality. And it applies to what is there now in daily life. Otherwise, each moment is conditioned by ignorance and attachment. But when there's the experiencing of the truth and applies to daily life, it's the parami, shanti, and viriya to have such firm confidence of the truth, to be able to understand directly more and more clearly. So I think it's time now.
Yes. Dika, Jan, everyone.
Thank you very much, Tanajan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.